come from where and what kind of terms of compounds in terms of positioning that can be spread out, get further information for themselves here. But speaking of
Mm.
getting information, those are unlucky. It's gonna be finding some information for themselves here against Sly. Sly not willing to hold on the fort. He's just like, nope, that's 2 cars and I'm alone. I'm booking it. I'm out of here.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, take a look at how many of all these choke points teams are setting up with. Zanshin's got their own over the south, and you've got the rest of TN who's all the way up in the hillside. So they are kind of out of harm's way, though. So they kind of want to keep it that way. A couple of all these exchanges didn't go the favor of Team Newbies.
Will he connect?
Meanwhile, Armor
Nah.
Esports have heard some of all
Nice
these
try.
noise caused by the side of ATO as they've been able to trail them for a slight bit. PV decides to trail all the way back. There's no point in actually fully committing into some of all these rotations for the moment. Phase one is going to end about 2 minutes, so plenty of time for them to really find somewhere that's absolutely ideal for them to play around. So a lot of all these grand ideations when you're playing around the south side of map of Miramar is that you kind of want to set up into a spot where you see high traffic areas in order to really fully benefit from those exchanges.
Mm. Sorry, no, I was just thinking, right? Like, totally agree with what you mentioned, but I was just thinking, right, with the current state of things, because this is the kind of positioning, especially towards that south side, or at least that western south side of Los Leones, right? You got Puerto Paraiso, that's like on the other edge of, it's another city that's playing on the other edge of the circle, but that's towards the northeastern side. Because taking into account the flight path we had, right? So the teams that drop later will have the benefits of getting that nice good spot much earlier than a lot of these teams here. But teams traversing down south, now that's the problem, right? Because we're talking about a lot of teams going straight down towards Los Leones. Sure, you probably could take a long rotation towards that northwestern side and enter towards Los Leones from there. But other than that, I feel like it's going to be a very slow game here. I think the only few unique scenario was probably just like ATO and NRG earlier, who pretty much dropped towards the center part of that flight path. So that was the
Mm-hmm.
only time we ever see conflict. Other than that, everyone's just doing long rotation. I'm just trying to recall which was the other team, because I remember while you were mentioning just now during that one of the players POV, I saw one team went towards that western side. I just can't remember which team was that.
It's okay. We'll get some replays through by the end of the round just to go
They are
back down
hunting
memory
for
lane.
them, but
Yeah.
But it's okay if it passed our mind. Doesn't matter all too much because we've only had that one pickoff early on,
most of
and
the
of course
team got
it is
center.
expected for the zone to close into
It's a
resorts, which,
shout
like you said, plenty of
southern
all these
shift.
teams have already moved into that trajectory already. So some of the warehouses are going to be pretty much crucial for them to hold out for at least 2 phases, so to speak. And the rest of Vega Esports have yet to actually get themselves into the zone and are about to do so.
मेगा
Now,
स्पोर्ट्स के लिए
wonder
जोन
if
एंट्री
that
इजी है. इसके
farmhouse
बाद
right
इनके
across the
स्पेस
edges
बनानी
are going
पड़ेगी
to be unoccupied.
कि सेंटर बहुत
If
टीम्स से
it's going to
पहले
be
टेकन है.
available, they might be planning themselves here for at least a couple of minutes, so to speak. But here we go, Vega Esports so far. Teddy has got some stuff to show back in game one. Round two, he got taken out early, and then I could say pretty much the same in Rondo as well. So a little bit of a quick dip of performance coming from the rest of Vega Esports, which I kind of least expect because they start off so strong. They're still in the top five, don't get me wrong, but I believe there's so much more potential. Meanwhile, okay, that's one way to sort it out.
Just oops, that kind of situation. But of course, speaking of
स्क्वाड
which,
एंड
it
टीएन
looks like
got
not just one of the
crashed.
players. That was just the beginning of
टीएन
the
के दो
additional
नॉक
loss that's
होते
going to be
हुए.
happening as we see across the feed. Happy Squad crashing into the compound as Team New is currently
मोंटी पे
trenching
अच्छा
themselves in, and then instantly 2 members knocked down for the count. And RK trying to find that angle,
एक्समैन
but
और अनलकी
just gotta find anyone.
एक
As
एक
currently
फ्लैंक
Happy
भेज रहे
Squad
हैं
playing
ताकि
really
थर्ड पार्टी
tight
किल्स आ
and close
सके.
to those house corners here, not
मोंटी अच्छा
allowing
होल्ड
Anarchy
करते
to
हुए.
find that angle to actually spot it out for the high
हैप्पी को
ground here,
डाउन
while they're also finding
by
windows and
लुन
opportunities to
लुन
really nade
of
them out. But first
X-Men.
things first, trying to go for the
Ooh.
refi. trying to go for the resets.
Oh, nice one.
It looks like a nice timing coming in from Unforgiven with the sword off. Finds Monty skirting around the side of the building here. We'll get the knockdown. Now all comes up
Shotgun
to
is
RJ
broken,
Box.
man.
His
It's
first
all about
contact
timing
has
in
been amazing
shotgun.
so far in all these
जिसने
close
अच्छी
quarter
timing पकड़ी,
skirmishes. And we got
वो
Bloom
जीत जाता है.
from above the hills, watching like a
Nice.
hawk.
Nice
And
hold
Bloom,
by
based on
TN.
the minimap, he's already going deep for the flank. Algin Bots as well
Oh,
as the rest of
Algen
Happy Squad
Bots
coming
का एक
so
अच्छा
real quick.
spray
There we
knock
go. Finding that nade, connecting it
need से.
true. He's going to buy a little bit more time, but can he actually go in for
Nice
that
push.
reset? Though a jump
Oh.
shot! The Elgin
No
Bot!
way!
Oh my goodness, that looks illegal! 6 HP in a dream! Can he
What
save
the
Monty in
fuck,
time
भाई?
though?
You know, if it
क्या
wasn't
मार
for
दिया
that
ये?
headshot, I didn't know how that fight would actually gone down here as well. That was a much needed headshot that would have determined. Actually, you know, a lot of these 1v1 fights against Rifle, right? It really comes to that headshot that really determine such huge amount of damage that can determine
Unforgiven.
the outcome of the fight comes out. But Arjun
ये knock
Bots,
expect नहीं
you
कर
get
रहा
that
था.
nice timing of a nade, follow up with a close range sort of win here on top of that as well.
दोनों टीम से
And the
काफी लंबी
revive
फाइट
here, that's absolutely
चला ली
insane.
है.
But again, that
अच्छा
also gives
hold
an
by
opportunity
TN.
for Team Newbies, a little bit of a breathing room for the reset, because you know revive's the priority, right? You want to try to get as many members up for the count as much as possible. Molly
अब
comes in,
two situation हो चुकी है.
connects, get the finishing, get the secure that kill, and now we're back to that equalizer to the 2v2. But then again, Contra, look on the mini map as well. All this
वैसे
commotion, all this blood that's being spilled in this water is drawing in the shocks and drawing in the
Nice.
scavengers, and now they're trying to
Happy
see
one
they can
down
try to
by
capitalize on the
NRG.
situation.
As much as they're in the zone, they are definitely drawing a lot of attention, like you said. Team Newbies just want to hold it out defensively, and finally gets a pick off up against Algin Bots, and Monty's got to do it all over again, and
Nice flashes. Nice flashes. Nice one.
Way. Anarchy will
Happy
unleash
Squad
everything he's got
is
to
wiped
finally take
by
out
TN.
Happy Squad. Meanwhile, Sly Fox
Nice.
trailing right onto his target, not quite finding it though. A full send coming from that member out of Zanshin. And you could definitely see a little bit of scrambling coming from a couple of squads just to try to seek any form of point that they could just hold on firm in their position. The rest of Team Monk is just by the edge. Meanwhile, they got an unfortunate flip in between, as lucky enough, Armor was just passing by.
He got
We're not
lucky.
looking to really draw it into a fight. As Show finds an opportunity to take out Nikos. And Savage
Oh,
Man
Vega
still
got
in the
crashed
middle of fray as he goes
on
up
X-Men's
against
compound.
AJ, and AJ so far looking clean on all these exchanges.
Oh. Now it's just Team Purple versus Team Purple as well. It's VG versus Savage Man. Up channel, of course, being green and kind, removed from the playing field. Your savior resetting, timing that nade, and hopefully to try to find a little bit more coincidence, similar to like what we were witnessing just now. None goes
Nice
through.
Molly.
Molly to follow up with it, and savior just
थोड़े टाइम के लिए
taking
इनका
this
होल्ड
one
हो
step
जाएगा.
at a time.
पुश.
I love his teammates also ensuring to give the
Nice
cover his
fall back.
tracks as he resets his positioning back into the
I
rest
think
of the
इनको
team.
1-2
Blue
करना
nade,
चाहिए.
Blue zone grenade comes and trying to flush them out earlier, but the
Yep,
rest of the
they
team
are
is currently
going for
up
that.
on the fields here, playing at the outskirts of the compounds here to see if they can get a better flanking angle here. Thankfully for this situation, right, unlike Erangel, don't think there's any team that has sniping position on top of these two teams currently at the moment, because I believe at least this section of the area, there's barely any high grounds here. Probably there's a couple of vantage point, but there's no team that's currently playing on that hill.
True enough. Plenty of slopes to begin with, so they're just going to be looking around for now. And I kind of like the fact that the Savior, he bought just about enough time with every single Troll Bowl just to try to hold back for him to regroup with the rest of X-Men, despite losing one initially. This is the best case scenario for them to hold out, potentially waiting for Vega to commit a certain mistake, since they don't really have those vehicles to kind of rush upon Savage Men for the time being. Only got one squad being wiped out, and maybe more to follow suit with Zen Esports Namshao unleashing that M249 onto Drake, but more members of the Alter Egos coming on his way. Oh boy, this is gonna be a tough isolation. He's gonna try to draw one at the very least, but over on the back there's two more members to be trading off. So Alter Ego hoping to secure those points, but Zen Esports is holding them back. Not quite clear just yet, as we see them slowly being deteriorated by the blue zone. So they gotta make a run for it, because phase 4 is starting to hurt.
The problem about it is that too many hopes, slopes and hills to provide the necessary amount of cover. Kens just can't find the angle or the players
That
to really try to
so low.
capitalize on this high ground that he has. He did manage to spot
Oh,
one of the
Zenchen
members here,
का
but
एक
he's getting
बंदा
tagged up by another
वहाँ नीचे
suspected team.
चर्च
And I
खेल
believe
रहा
that's
है.
courtesy of Orgles, who's currently has
थोड़ा
a better
मुश्किल तो
has a
होएगी
higher
clear
ground
करने
as
में
any
इनको.
esports. Abel Will is also keeping them pinned down. Alter Ego probably also will be sharing the same fate here. But now it's just a matter of which of the two teams going to be able to clear each other out here. Should they tank out the zone? It's a phase 4. It does hurt quite a bit, but if they want to make a play, they possibly can. But I think that's pretty much why we see Ken's positioning his, or at least
अल्टर ईगो थोड़ी
making sure his
हार्ड
cross has
पोजी में है
angled
क्योंकि
towards that
जेंशन का
positioning,
एक
just to make sure no one is
जेन का एक
attempting to
बंदा
flank through the
फार
blue zone itself
जोन के
here.
लिए खेल
But
रहा है
with the
जोन
blue
एज के
zone
लिए.
currently progressing, now both teams plays it safe and just prioritize and just get into the safety of the circles. No vehicles, I believe, is currently on foot.
Oh,
Alter
both
Ego
team
should
got
have a
denied
vehicle at the bottom of the
that
slope
fight.
here. But what about Zan Esports here?
They can traverse pretty safely because they have already planted Oraculus over onto the
अब
edge
Zen
of
kind
that
of
zone.
pinch है.
But it's heavily guarded by the rest
Nice,
of Orcus.
nice.
Though,
One more
speaking of
tag,
which,
one more
Oraculus
tag.
tries to deal with the situation as
No,
Outer Ego tries to set
I
up
think
with the
उसे
vehicle, but they got
spray ही करना
caught
चाहिए
up
था.
in between. And he's still on the wheels. Is he gonna get up though? Simoy, he's got to do something about this situation. Brought down to 50%
Setsuna got
armor.
down.
Finds the rest of
Shadow
Shadow
Esports पूरी
Esports will be
eliminate
able
हो
to
चुकी है.
at least take one
Nice
off of that
shot.
list as well. Now only down to one member left for the side of Shadow, while Zen Esports is happily picking up members of the side of Outer Ego. Oraculus doing so much work for the time being.
This is a problem for Alter Ego right now. It's not a position they can hold for. To make things worse, it's such a steep hill. A vehicle like that just doesn't have enough torque to really pull them all the way through.
He got
But then again,
deleted,
Mad
man.
Dog is going to be the one to put the final nail in the coffin for the last member of Zan Esports here. But then again, Oraculus, kudos to you. You did so much
Nice
damage
nade
towards the side of
by
Alter
Fate.
Ego as well. Yeah, but what a nade coming in from Fate, having absolute fate of that trigonometry will nail Bolong down to the ground here. But can he try to secure Crazy Dog? Unfortunately,
Quick
not able
picks
to
always
secure
win.
the South Wing here. God trying to go for the pickup, to go for the
Nice
revive here. They
clean
can't
fight.
afford to lose any more
One
members here.
casualty,
2
but
matches,
it's
or at
okay.
least 3 matches right now, hasn't been favorable for them. They need as many options or as many members as possible to try to increase their odds for victory here.
So far, this has been the best
X-Men
round
के लिए
for
एक
the side of
higher advantage
MRG.
है.
All
वेगा
4
esports
points
को
are
अंदर जाना.
acquired in this match of Miramar
अंदर
itself.
जाने के लिए force कर
So,
सकते हैं ये लोग.
still, like you said, more work to be done. They've only got a
और
few
कुछ play
members
है
left
नहीं.
for them
Oh,
to work with.
nice.
While Vega, bird's eye view up against those members of Terra, and they're just absolute sitting ducks
One
in
shot.
this desert dune. Teddy now gets to confirm it. Still members of Orkless to steal away a couple of points, as that is CJ nabbing one. Meanwhile,
Oh,
Vega
they are pushing. They
has
are
got
pushing.
Savage Men looking
Nice.
upon this area for the longest of time, and they
Oh.
finally decide to push. 40 HP left for the side of Teddy. He's got that Famas ready to be unleashed, though. First and foremost, got to heal up. Mad Dog so far so sharp on his R98K. And X-Men, they're slowly running out of space.
Nice.
And
One.
somehow still turns it around. Savior, first one
One
to
got
be
down.
taken off the list.
2v4.
The rest of Vega, hungry for blood, looking
Oh,
for
oh.
more, and it's only down to ZH. What more can he do this time? Up
अरे ये kill
against
feed
the
इनकी
Malaysian
अधूरी.
side. Vega, they might just secure
ठीक
all
है.
3 pointers that they worked so hard for.
True. Trying to
देखते हैं
play
क्या
with that
1v4
corner,
हो सकता है.
trying to get this nice lineup for them to
I
try to
think
get a
थोड़ा
couple of
मुश्किल
doubles
होगा.
or multi kills here. He gets the one,
Oh,
but
nice
sadly,
try, buddy. Nice
coming
try.
for the side here for Vega. They don't intend to bring it out to draw it out in a 1v1. No, they are going to push it together. They breach together. They go together.
सारे
They
एक-एक
ride
करके मरते
together.
गए.
They will secure that site for the team here. A very well-earned fight here. 3 points
Nice
on
nade.
their
Oh,
belt here. But what a
what a
nade. Not
nade,
enough
man.
to go for the knock, unfortunately. But then again, Cherry coming in to put a cherry on top here to secure
No play for them.
not just 1 but 2 kills
Armor
for
का
the
एक
team here.
PBF white
2
flank.
more
Nice.
points. NRG once again
What a clean
will
wipe.
be one of the few teams to be bailing out early, and now we're down
Nice
to our
hold by the
final, or at
armorers.
least our top 10 teams here.
Armor was such a great hold. That
जिनको
was
भी नहीं पता
massive
पीएमएस के
coming
जो
in
भी
from Cherry to be
2
able to
टॉप
spot
टीम्स
them
होंगी
moving towards their direction. And just like that,
वो
Armor, they secured themselves 5 points already to their name.
ईडब्ल्यूसी के लिए
And this
क्वालिफाई कर
slow and
जाएंगी
steady pacing of
इस साल के
Armor is absolutely worth it. Then so much of that control coming
और
in from
थोड़े
the
से पीजीसी
southeastern
पॉइंट्स भी
corner
मिल
of
जाएंगे
the
उन्हें
map.
थोड़े से
Meanwhile,
नहीं काफ़ी मिल
Orcless,
जाएंगे
Mad Dog, he's been
ताकि वो जो
sniping
पीजीसी
players left, right, and
2026 है
center with the
उसमें
Kar
खेल
98K,
पाए
and he's accomplished like 4 kills just with the snipers alone. That's absolutely insane.
और
Might
बाय द
see
वे
even more
जो
of
भी
a
इंडियन
show.
है
Oh, that was crazy with the 1v2,
इंडियन टीम टीएन
and
खेल रही है
he
इसमें
will
टीम
just
न्यूबीज
send the monks back.
This is really great from themselves. Just playing around with the cover to try to isolate those fights. Very great secure, much needed one as well. As the two, once again, we're seeing close quarter
टीएन
combat
के लिए
among
अच्छा
the top
शिफ्ट है ये
3 teams, currently trying to get an
दे
edge
विल होल्ड
across the
बट
other here.
ज़्यादा प्रेशर आएगा तो
With Alter Ego out of the picture here,
ज़्यादा प्रेशर नहीं आना
and
चाहिए वैसे
even a monk as well.
अच्छा
Now
कंपाउंड
it
है
just
उनके लिए
comes down to our top 3,
डाउन ब्रिज
Unlucky, Orcless, GSW. Although on the other hand, we're too far
बाहर की
into the
जितनी
late
टीम्स
game
है
here to go
जो भी
any
जोन के
potential
अंदर आने का
revive.
ट्राई
So
करेगी वो
GSW most likely will just
फिनिश
have to
होगी
go
अभी
into the round to try to play for placements here. But there's still 9
9
teams,
टीम्स
including
अलाइव है अभी
themselves
भी
here,
फेज
still
6 में
available inside the zone
3
here.
जोन और बचे हैं
Although he does have although Show does have the BDRM here, but that thing can only it can only take so much bullets here.
He can hold out at the very least,
विजय
but
is knocked by
it's
armor
incredible, right? Like, the team has only scored 3
but
points,
they
and
will
all
make play
3 of those points were secured by Show
काफी
Show,
अच्छा
alone.
right?
वॉल
Yeah.
स्मोक वॉल कर दिया इन्होंने
I mean, is that
थोड़े
not
टाइम
a
के लिए पुश
show-stopping performance or
नहीं करेंगे
what?
वो
Well, I guess the show does stop for the side of Shadow Esports, though. A 9th place finish, not enough to back themselves
गेम
those
स्टार्ट
place
विन
11 points, unfortunately.
डेड
Oh, we got a Panzer kill. From where?
ओह
Akosire just shot it straight down at Show. Well, I guess like yeah, you did mention the point. It can only hold out
no
for
he
so long. Meanwhile,
bro he
Pubg
got so
will be
confused
for
किसको
it
मारूं मैं
seems.
fuck
Not quite
nice
making the cut out of that situation. While
anti
Vega
anti
Oh, good
anti
save.
drawing a line between them, and there will be just blood spattered across the field. Another insane performance coming from Vega, securing themselves 5.
अरे अरे अरे
Really
पैदल
great
पार कर
recovery
दिया
coming from TB there. I thought for a second that
गोनी
Vega's gonna
please
lose their
connect some
third member right there and then, but no, he didn't stop the hunt. He didn't go for the
जेंशिन
reset. He just
अनलकी
kept
के
it
लेफ्ट
going
ब्रिज पे
to
आके खेल
ensure
रही
that
है
at least as many members are going to be staying alive here. So this is
अगर
going
ये
to be
फिर
great.
से सेंटर
GSW
शिफ्ट होता
out
है
of the
तो
picture here.
अनलकी को प्रॉब्लम होने
Unlucky
वाली है इस
Oculus
जोन के बाद
definitely smiling with glee here.
they are
Still
in the top
relatively healthy as well at the same time. It's actually amazing to be. But then again, I think Team Unlucky might just have their luck run out here, just depending on how the circle shift here. Because right now, I mean,
और
not just
ग्लेस
Team
भी
Unlucky, right? A lot of
4
teams
मैन
right now is
अलाइव
currently
है
just banking on
7
that
किल के
circle
साथ
to be in their
नाइस
favor,
काफी
right?
अच्छा
If it
कमबैक
shifts towards the north side, Unlucky is going to be dealing with a
सेकंड
lot
जोन
of
के
teams.
हिसाब
Armor,
सेकंड मैच के हिसाब
by the
से
way, Armor Esports, who has been not only just
सॉरी गाइस मैंने
adamant but
लेट स्ट्रीम करी थी
relentless with their
तो मुझे
defense
पता
of their
नहीं है कौन सा
positioning
चल
so
रहा है
far.
आई गेस
That's what we've
एक
seen as they
मैच हो चुका है
literally tore NRG just now. Literally sold them a new T-shirt here. Team Zenshi, on the other hand, playing a little bit more quieter compared to Armor Esports here, but there's still a couple of ditches and corners that Team Unlucky
सो गया
have
था
to
मैं
cover and
सो
go through. Yeah, yeah, as they
They've only
should
got
be.
2 members for the
वन इज
moment, so
गोइंग फॉर द
Zen
मोटार
Esports, well, actually
रोनिक्स
3,
Sorry,
because like
Zakshin,
you're
yeah,
sticking.
3 Esport, yeah.
But
वेगा
you
स्पोर्ट्स
can
के लिए
take a look
अच्छी
at
रिजेस
this,
हैं
like Unlucky's
ऑर्गलेस
over on the south
ऑर्गलेस के
side.
लिए कुछ
It's a
बचा नहीं
full
है अभी
squad
खेलने
there
को
that they will have to go up
आइदर दे
against
विल
later
क्रैश
on, so they
ओह
just gotta
नाइस
prioritize on
नाइस
their
एज
position, and Sings
दे
at
हैव प्ले
least found a little bit of a
फॉर
crack for
लेट
them to eventually slither
लेफ्ट
their way
शिफ्ट है ये
through. 6 teams remaining for the moment. And like I like the way you put it, how Armor has been able to really get a firm hold from the
जेंशिन का
edges
पूरा
and have
ट्राई
been able
रहेगा कि
to
अनलकी को
find this
निकलने नहीं
kind of
देना और
formation
आर्मरर का भी
to control that
दे नो दे
eastern
हैव
corner of the map. But now
काफी
they're
अच्छी
being
लीड
spotted by Goni. Oh, a couple of nice taps coming from the Mark 12, but not quite enough to secure any of the members.
जेंशिन का
Unlucky needs
दो
a little
डाउन
bit
हो
more
चुके
of
हैं
a helping hand in order to try to
if
take
they
them
got the
down.
if
Meanwhile,
they got the
there
correct
is
info
opening
then
for
they
a
will
team to
go for
just
the
cut right through. I believe
left
that's
team
Vega full sending it into the zone, and they're already in the midst of
वेगा
a
ने कर
trade-off,
दिया
and
क्रैशन
that's Teddy
टीम
taking out
न्यूबीज किस
Translucent
कंपाउंड पे
as TN will lose another member, only one left,
लास्ट
but
बचा है
this has
टीएन का
been by far the best performance coming from the team that's been holding out in this sector for the longest
3v1
of
है इसके
time.
कंपाउंड के लिए
So what more
आई
can
थिंक
they
एनआरजी
do
पे नेड नहीं बचे होंगे अब
against the
उनके
rest of
प्रीवियस
Vega? is on the
प्रीवियस
hunt,
फाइट में सब
and
खत्म.
there's just
नाइस.
barely enough space, barely
इन
any
पे
troubles
शॉटगन तो
other
है.
than those tree smokes that he's holding on.
Yeah.
If he got
It was
lucky, then
pretty a
he
costly
will
fight,
got
right?
1
Since
point.
they didn't really leave this spot, they also just managed to secure this spot for themselves against
Oh,
Happy
Orgles
spot, right? So
going for
really
the
not much left
Zhang
for
Chin
them to
play. What?
hold, at least in terms of resources here, right? So pretty much as because we didn't really get to see that POA, so the assumption would be
Nice read,
Vega
man.
just really
Nice read.
crash onto the side because I remember their last position was towards the north. But then again, now we see
Ooh,
Orgles
Oculus.
pushing forward here, finding an opportunity to capitalize here. But then again, a little bit
Zanchin
of a
got
saving
eliminated.
grace, as we did see also Armor Esports not spotting Zanshin, but actually spotting CJ first. So we'll force him back into the covers here, denying him the additional
Orgles
kill
का
that he
बैकअप भी आ
so
गया है.
sought to achieve for
3-1
himself
split
here.
है उनका.
Oh, CJ's
I
got
think
them where they need to
आया
be.
को अब टेडी
But he
को
does
फोर्स
not have
करना
any
चाहिए बाहर
troubles
खेलने के
left,
लिए.
so he just got to go in for those raw aim. But of course, backup has arrived coming in with the blue zone grenade. Might be able to flush
Nice
them off of
push.
position as he goes in for the flank with his
Nice.
AUG. And just like that, he catches one, looking for two. Runs right into
Oh,
smoke. He does not get to trace them for far too long, but he will just fool send it regardless. There we go. That's
nice,
kill number
nice,
two.
nice,
Make it
clean,
three
nice,
as
clean
Orcliffe
fight.
goes on a killing spree, on a 12 kill killing spree.
That is a picture perfect painted from coming in from Orglis here. The body system between
I
both
think
CJ
आर्मर
and
का
his
ये
teammate as well.
चिकन होना
And
चाहिए क्योंकि
within this
इतना प्रेशर टीम
2v4
में
or 2v3 in this
बचा नहीं
scenario
है.
as well. Constantly covering each
Orgles
other's angle, each
पे
other's
अच्छा
back, just
एंगल है.
constantly shifting crosshair. I'm pretty sure the communication is just as
Oh
clean as
नहीं,
anything as well,
जिस कर
as
रहा
they
था
just
वही हुआ.
constantly keeping
Orgles का
track.
एंकर पिट
I'm
गया.
keeping right, you keep the left. I'm hearing footstep, probably going to be coming from one of the smokes. They got all those corners covered for themselves. Really well done coming from VG. I think this is probably the best round that we've been witnessing
वो
from
एंकर
them, at
डाउन
least
नहीं
these
होता
past
तो
four matches,
ऑर्गलेस
for
पे
sure.
था काफी
But Armor
चांस.
Esports, on the other
अभी
hand,
भी है वैसे,
now
लेकिन
they're on the hunt. They got 7 kills after
टेडी
wiping
वाली
out 2
टीम
separate
ये वेगा
squads.
स्पोर्ट्स
They
बाहर
also
आके
have the
खेल
vantage
सकती है.
point here, and not although they're not really in the safety of the circle here, but they still can bide their time. The blue zone hasn't really forced them out of the open just yet here. So really, Armor Esports trying to wait for the time with the third party here. They can't initiate the fight. They don't have the vehicle. They'll be descending the hill. Just a reminder, descending that hill, not scaling here. So there's no cover for them to play with here.
Yeah, which is why this fight is really between Orcless as well as Armor Esports. The moment that they settle the scores, that's where Vega does get some opportunities to expand their wings. Well, I can't say expand wings because currently they're just twirling inside of the only available compound right into the center. Oh, PV with the AWM shot. He's looking for his second one, and that was just so nasty. Oh, nobody was
Oh, they are
going
making
to
play
be
on the
wanting to
southern
be
side.
in within his crosshairs right now. Orcless now, we're down to only two. And Armor, they're going
If
waiting
ऑर्गलेस ने
around
अच्छा होल्ड
the
कर लिया ना
circle
तो आर्मर
just to hunt out
esports
what the
थोड़ा
remainder of
fucked up
Orcless
situation
is
में
going
आ
to
जाएगी
be trying to fend off against. So Armor Esports so far,
क्योंकि
the
वेगा
cleanest
esports पे
round that they
सेंटर
played
है
out, 8
जोन
points,
गेम का.
tying up with Vega at the moment.
I'm also going to be a little bit concerned
और आई
because even
थिंक इनके पास
Orclus is
ज्यादा यूटिल्स
keeping
है नहीं.
an arm's length away from Armor Esports here. They're not too comfortable with the disadvantage of
डिफेंसिव भी
on the number of manpower that they have on their hands here. So really keeping an arm's length. They're also hoping for Vega Esports to confront against Armor Esports. Well, Vega, they don't intend to leave their compound. Sure, they have that one member playing the outskirts of the compound, but he's just the anchor. He's just the scouter here. He's not
connects the
meant to
head.
engage in any of the fights. He's just there to
Ooh,
make sure to
Cherry's
cover
found
the
one.
flanks of the team here. But there goes
He got the
CJ.
shield.
CJ's out for the count. Orgla's down to the last man, playing between the rocks at the current moment of time here. So let's see how much damage coming in from
Nice
one of the
knock
members here of VG. He was able to fall
on
back, able to find
suspect.
suspect, knocked him down from the count.
Armor got
3v3
two
suddenly comes down to
down.
2v3 for their hands here. But
टेडी को
Orgla
वापस
still
वही
the last member, still
पोजी
being the
लेनी चाहिए
wild
ऊपर
card
वाली.
here, depending on how much damage he can do in this situation.
Nice.
Never
Oh,
mind.
there we have it. Only one
Vega
member
esports
left,
got
and
the
Vega
dinner. Nice one, nice
Esports
one.
have finally secured their chicken dinner, pure in match 4. And that was phenomenal stuff coming in from the juggernauts of Malaysia and Indonesia. Wow. This was a crazy round because for a moment
Coming
I
down
thought
your favorite team,
Armor
boys.
Esports had it in the back until they kind of overexhausted
जो भी
themselves
स्ट्रीम देख रहा
hunting
है
out those
लाइक एंड
members of
सब्सक्राइब
Oakless,
करके जाए
and that leaves their
ताकि हम और
position
आगे वॉच
into
पार्टी करते
a
रहें.
little bit more of an open space for the rest of Vega to capitalize, and that was literally what they did to wrap up the round.
Yeah, I mean, I was really concerned when we really had the POV initially, right? There was just there was just barely any smoke utilities left. There was like 2 or 3, but it's not really enough to really keep up that smoke trail, right? Because especially when you're going against a team that has someone entrenched themselves down for that, or create a foothold for themselves, it's so hard to siege when you just don't have enough utilities to just cover or at least create options, right? So Oculus was literally the only best thing they can try to go for. Yeah, but once they go for that, then it just literally comes down to who's spotting who first. But naturally, it really kudos to Vega, especially that one lone player who was able to really hold out his own, did the damage. He didn't get any knocks though, but just did enough damage or give enough intel for the rest of the team to decide how they really want to tackle this equation for themselves here. So really well done coming in from Vega Esports, but also at the same time to Armor, who was able to make their way through here. I believe at the end they got like 8 to 9 kills in total for the rest of the team before they got to that second place.
ATN का काफी
So
अच्छा होल्ड था.
they have decent amount of kills, got great placement point for themselves. This is going to be definitely very helpful for them in the ranking. But of course, Vega Esports, I stand by myself.
ट्रांसलेशन का नॉक थोड़ा सा वो हो गया,
we've been seeing at least in this past
unexpected.
matches, at least.
I absolutely do agree with you. Same could be said about Armor because that could have also been a
तो हो
for
जाता.
them. I felt like there's definitely a lot of couple of stuff that they could
If they hold
actually
3-man that
fix in these
compound, the
upcoming
Vega
rounds.
team got
But
destroyed.
those battles
I
that
think
happened
क्योंकि उन पे
around that
पोजी अच्छी
chicken
थी.
dinner area, well, it was just plenty of all these close card combat despite us, you know, thinking, oh, Miramar is all about the long range shots. Yeah, Mad Dog was doing that, but everybody else, they loved the party, and there was just plenty of it happening around that resort where Zen Esports just held the line up against Alter Ego, and then you just saw Zenshin also being caught in the mix.
काफी अच्छा नीड था ये.
Rebirth Soldier Gaming, they found about 4 points to book out this match, despite, you know, them not really achieving that late run as much as they do hope for. But overall, it's massive improvements coming from all these teams that we mentioned earlier that had a slow day out, Armor with a top 2 finish, and Savage Men, they did what they could. But Vega, the moment that they finish off that
ये इस पे
fight,
एक मॉली होती
like
ना ये
they gained a
compound.
newfound confidence to really take on
और
much more.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. It's just, especially it's been a very quiet
इस
match,
बंदे
right?
के लिए
Like,
बुरा लगा
especially
मेरे
for
को.
this, because it's Miramar,
बॉम्बे
it's a kind of
एल
match where you really want
WS
to try
के
to
लिए
get good positioning. You
कंफ्यूज
get
हो गया
that
बेचारा.
initial circle as well, where a lot of teams actually drop relatively early. You get this circle that's just so far down south of Los Leones, right? So it was a very quiet and long drawn out match.
CJ18 का फ्लैंक अच्छा था.
The nerves of a lot of these players, right? Because this
इनकी
is
रीड भी
the
काफी अच्छी
first
थी. बहुत अच्छे
Miramar
टाइम पे
match.
पकड़ा है
Yeah,
इन्होंने इनको.
we get in the match, and the first and only
लीड भी बना
Miramar
ली,
map
ओपोनेंट
that we
टीम
got
भी फेल दी
for
जो
day
टॉप
number
चल
1
रही
here
थी.
at least here. So it's that kind of thing
बैलेंस
where
आउट कर
you're
दिया
just
स्कोर
not
बोर्ड.
used to certain things just yet here, and now you're put in a position where, all right, we have to try to get for positioning, and then at the same time, if you're a team that dropped much
I think
earlier
last match of
and
the
on that flight path,
of
now
this
you're
day.
dealing with a lot of uncertainties where there's not a
4
lot,
हफ्ते
still a lot
चलेंगे
of
ये.
teams
4
still in
हफ्ते
play
3 दिन
in the lobby. There's still a lot of players as well. You don't know what's the
इसी
positioning
फॉर्मेट
like.
में.
You don't know where's the safest
फ्राइडे
path to
सैटरडे
go.
संडे,
We saw
फ्राइडे
some team
सैटरडे
crash into
संडे.
a certain compound, finding great success, while some wasn't able to find that same success
जो
or
भी टॉप
replicate
टीम
the
होगी
same
वो
success as
वो
other
क्वालिफाई
teams
कर
here.
जाएगी
But you know, other than
EWC
that,
के
it
लिए.
really just came down to just really great call, really great shout outs from the IGLs, and just really great spray controls, like especially coming from Arjun Bots, man. That
और
nade
और
follow
ग्लेस
up
के
with that headshot
आर्मर
spray,
के
that
बहुत
much
अच्छे
needed
हुए हैं
one against a Sora,
स्टैट्स.
I think that was insane to me.
It really was, and overall we see a tie and a total of kills, but in the damage department it was where
और
Vega
ग्लेस
shines
का
most
लोगो
alongside
इतना
with
क्यूट है.
Armor Esports, where Armor was pretty close in their attempt. I felt like maybe if they did not tunnel vision too much up against Orclus, they might actually fancy
Match
a chance to
leaderboard.
maybe put
22
apply a little
पॉइंट.
bit more pressure to Vega, because what Vega did right was not just sit still inside those compounds. They have every right to do so, by the way, but they expanded out of that territory, and that's kind of how they slowly get to overwhelm them, because they start to notice these two teams are taking a fight. We should be involved, and they absolutely took every single opportunity given, and hence why they walked out with 22
काफी बड़ा
points,
क्लाइंब है.
and now they're back in the game.
Yeah, I think this also comes to the fact that they're anchor player, right? I think he played a very crucial role in that last fight, that last top 3 fight in that last final circle here as well, because that intel really just gave the team a very clear picture on how they really want to tackle the fight. And the
वैसे
best
तो
of the night,
काफी
he didn't get knocked
सारे
down.
गेम्स हैं
He
तो
traded back, got
ये
really decent exchange. Sure, he didn't get any knocks, but just
अभी कुछ कह नहीं
enough for the
सकते,
team
आज
to really
पहला ही
try
दिन
to
है।
reinforce and recalibrate how they want to tackle this. But other than that, this is the total
सेकंड
leaderboard
हफ्ते पता चल जाएगा
after
कौन
the first
किसके
4
पास लीड
matches
है।
here, and Orcless still taking that top spot. Kudos to
थर्ड
the
हफ्ते
last
में
remaining member of Orcless getting that
पता चल
second
जाएगा कि
position
टॉप
here.
5
That
कौन है।
really gave him
फोर्थ
enough
हफ्ते
points,
में
10
नेक टू नेक
additional,
कंपटीशन चलेगा,
5 additional points to just give
क्योंकि जो
Orcless
अल्टर
that
ईगो है,
slight lead here. Now they're
आर्मर,
taking back that rank 1 for
शैडो
themselves.
ईट
But
स्पोर्ट्स,
VG
ऑर्गलेस
really scaling
और
up to that top 3. Really great, knocking out
अनलकी।
GSW here.
ये
But of course,
चार
the
टीम
score,
फॉर्म में,
not,
चार
it's
पांच
not
टीम
too
फॉर्म में
much
है
of a
काफी।
significant gap here, but still can be achievable depending how the performance here, especially as we head towards our last map of the night.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that in the middle of the leaderboard, we have 4 teams sitting at 20 points as well. So we definitely expect a lot of shift into our final round of the night. So
आई होप इंडियन टीम भी टॉप 2
within the
आ
span of the
जाए,
matchup, which
क्योंकि
we
काफी
saw,
गेम्स हैं।
that crazy surge coming in from
आ सकते हैं अगर सब चीज सही रही
esports
तो,
and so much more. So with that being said, I guess
क्योंकि जरूरी नहीं है हर बार प्ले अच्छे ही बने,
get myself some water and you guys
हर बार टाइमिंग का भी होता है।
we'll be right back for something that you don't want to miss, the wrap up to day 1 here in the PUBG Master Series Phase 1 2026.
We've seen a lot together. And we're just getting started. No limits on land. No limits on loot. No limits on survival. Your destination for next level PUBG game modes. PUBG Unbound. You're gonna need a bigger helmet.
A new out-of-this-world game mode, destructible terrain on Erangel, and some new gun attachments. All this and
जिसने
more
भी
as we dive
सब्सक्राइब
into
नहीं
the
किया
update
गाइस
41.1
सब्सक्राइब कर दो,
patch report.
ताकि आगे
First up, there's a new threat to Miramar,
हम
and this one
बढ़िया
commands an
बढ़िया
extraterrestrial
स्ट्रीम्स देख
armor.
पाए।
In PUBG's newest game mode, Xenopoint, you and your team will
We
fight
will
back
follow
against the
this
invasion,
series
choosing
PMS
from different
2026
paths,
phase 1।
upgrading your gear, and fighting against increasing
यार
odds
आज
to
मैं सो
challenge
गया, नहीं
and
तो
defeat the
सारे
Archon.
गेम्स दिखाता।
It's a challenging mixture of
लेट हो गया
roguelite
थोड़ा।
and third-person shooter that will keep you and your team pushing
जिसको
the
नहीं
limits
पता,
to
बाय
see
द
how
वे
far you can go.
TPP का टूर्नामेंट आने वाला
There's
है
even
इंडिया
an
का।
event pass to go with it, so you can collect cool rewards while saving the entire human race. Next, Erangel's about to go through a little forced landscaping now that we've added destructible terrain. Frag grenades, mortars, the Panzerfaust, C4 and vehicle explosions will all alter the terrain around them when they explode. You could also use the pickaxe to dig yourself some cover. We should note that the destruction does not apply to buildings, so you're safe indoors for now. Keep an eye out for destructible terrain in ranked games as well, and during custom match esports mode on Erangel, Miramar, Rondo, and Tago. Guns are getting a few more attachments this update as well. The hybrid scope will let you easily swap between 1x and 4x magnification. We've also added a new tilted grip, a solid starter choice that improves both horizontal and vertical recoil, while also reducing camera shake. To make room for this new toy, the angled foregrip has been removed. We also decreased the base horizontal and vertical recoil on the Dragonarm. There's also a new emergency support flare to call in a care package. New level 1 and level 3 jammer pack with storage space equal to their level. The ability to call in a supply drop with an enemy blue chip at a tower, and more. So be sure to check out the patch notes for full details. Update 41.1 is here. So get attached to the new attachments. Enact some light terraforming on Erangel, and fight back the alien threat before they become our alien overlords. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Thank you so much for joining us here in the PUBG Master Series Phase 1 of 2026. Once again, it's your boys here, Contra as well as Yoli, bringing you to the final match of the night. And right after this entirety of PMS is done for night, we still got more PUBG esports action because up next is going to be the PUBG EMEA Championship Spring, which will happen just after when we're done. So, of course, with that being said, we of course want to wrap up the night with high octane action. So here we go. We already got the countdown right now.
Let's go match number 5.
Classic Erangel once again.
Last match of the
And
day.
it's been quite a
Erangel.
start to the tournament so far, Yoli, where we've seen plenty of all these insane performance coming in from Orclas and so many more.
Definitely for sure. I've been pretty. I'm pretty satisfied for some of the teams because some of the teams, especially some of the returning teams, there is some expectation, right? Because it's that kind of thing where all right, they've been here for most of the Master Series, most of the PUBG APAC qualifiers for these past 2 years now. So naturally, some expectation has been somewhat set in stone. But then at the same time, we've been seeing a lot of these new teams coming in, bringing new additions to the table. So even teams like take Unlucky, for example, from their past track record, right, hasn't been somewhat favorable, but this time here in day number 1 really stepping up here. Sure, may not be as super aggressive compared to some of the other teams that we have here in the tournament here, but still, hey, it's baby steps, right? You take one step at a time, you get a lot better, you get a lot stronger. That's exactly what I love to see every year. We even see team rosters. Yes, it's unfortunate you do have a certain roster that you have in mind, especially for the fans here, but hey, sometimes something needs to change for the better, for the future, for everyone's future endeavors, right here. So some of the new rosters that we've seen
Vega
here
Esports got
has
the
been
last
benefiting for some of the teams, but
win
it is just
of
day
the
one. It's very hard to say
Miramar
down the
match.
long road for now.
Let's see
Yeah.
कौन जीतता है अब
But then
ये
again,
Erangel.
oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
You
I just gotta say that we just let these guys cook, right? Because like
yeah,
I said,
just let him cook, right?
it's day one. Like a lot of them are just figuring things out, and usually you see high flyers like Savage Men. They're also having a little bit of a sluggish day out. 7 points only for the entire course of day one is something that we least expect coming from them, as well as NRG, which have been household names of the PMS circuit for so many years. And then last round, you start to see, even the Malaysian side of Vega step up to claim the chicken dinner. And a lot of that has to do with Teddy's initiation of how he really opens up the fight. So last round, take a look at that. almost identical damage numbers coming from both Teddy as well as I'm 1M bot in general. And of course, I wouldn't say that Empty as well as AJ was just sitting back all game. They've always been providing just about the perfect cover that was required for them to now move into the top three. So
Man of
we
the
go back
match
for a little bit
is
of a recap of what
Teddy
went on because they
Exa.
got plenty of all these post quarter action into what seemed to be a straight out stomp out in the open fields where Teddy absolutely shines the brightest.
Yeah, but then again, at the same time, just from the stats alone, right? Like, let's not say about like AJ, whoever is like sitting on the fight. I don't think that's the case. It actually somewhat dictates like what's the formation like coming in from Vega, right? Like who's going to be the one that's going to be on the overseer, who's going to be playing support, who's the one that's going to be entry frag, who's going to be charging into the mix. It seems like Teddy here has taken up that role for breaching into most of these fights here.
Wait,
And let's
wait.
be honest, he has the firepower to
Setsuna
really
got
back
the
it up. And if it's not just him, Iron Boss is also there to play hand in hand for the buddy system. And M's also trying to join in the fray. You know, honestly, when I saw this roster, not too sure about AJ and Iron Boss. I'm really excited to see how they're playing,
destroyed the
especially
vehicle.
for this next upcoming few weeks, right? But seeing both M and Teddy in the same roster was actually an unlikely duo here coming to my light here. So
Yeah.
I was very happy to see how it's been turning out for these past 4 matches. I think match number 4, because day one, everyone is just trying to get into the groove here, right? So match 4, I felt that was
Last
like
match किसी का
Vega
drop नहीं हुआ.
at its like
Nice.
where they're supposed to be, right? The vision that they
They are
had for
playing
themselves
slow
with this
and
roster
steady.
here. So really cool. Let's see how well they'll continue forward for this last match of the night. I'm expecting to see a lot of this team to also really step it up because it's the last match. You really want to try to at least set up as best of a foundation for yourself before you move into day number 2 or day number 3. Because once we get to day number 2, it gets pretty crazy. Day number 3, that's when
Look at the stats,
you see
though.
teams having to themselves. Yup. I'm not
Wow.
surprised. Alex taking top spot. I am not surprised at all here.
He just did more than 1K more than Empty. Like as much as we said, like, oh, Empty, he's kind of playing a little bit more supportish in the form of numbers. Apparently not the case because he's the one chunking them down so that Teddy can actually finish the job.
Yeah.
So I would say that a lot of the Vega playstyle is really enabling each other into securing,
Correct.
a lot of all these frags. Maybe a couple of first couple of rounds they were struggling to find position, so to speak, but in many of all these occasions when they actually go 4 versus 4, a lot of the times they actually walk out taking the victory.
Majority of the time, yes, definitely for sure. You know,
Wait.
not necessarily full sending it as well, right? I mean, we're not just talking about Vega, we're also talking about the rest of the team that we've been seeing this
Oh,
past 4
लंबा
matches.
यार्ड पे आ
Not
चुकी
necessarily
है
just full
Vega
sending it, but
Esports.
the goal will be just
आर्मर ने अच्छा
to do just harassing, right? Just try to
Bravo
whittle down
पकड़ा है.
utilities across a lot of this team, especially with how the circle has been starting
Jensen
off for a
got
lot
the
of these guys.
EP
Especially
from
this
the
final circle.
Severning.
It's still within it's still within the water area, but there's still more land than water. But that's what I'm trying to say
Let's
here.
see
This
ये काम
proves my
करते हैं.
point where a lot of these circles forces a lot of these teams to make like really either aggressive
I
choices
think
or
इनकी भी
just
टाइमिंग अच्छी है
really
तो इनको मिल
really
सकता है सेंटर शायद.
straightforward choices where we're
Prison
just
के
gonna
आसपास
take
वाला.
a emergency drop or emergency pickup and just drop dead center on top of the map. The flight path dictates there's no one really there. Even if somebody did a long dive, they won't be exactly at the center of the circle. So you see a lot of these teams just heading there first. But most of the teams that usually
FP
head there
squad भी
first
got
or
forced.
literally battle their way there first usually will come out short in
Now
terms of resources here. So that's also another problem for a lot of this team, as we did see towards the final circle, and especially on map of Tego and Rondo.
ये
a lot of this
जगह
team
ना
was
होल्ड करना
stuck
थोड़ा
with
सा
no
हार्ड है.
smokes to cover for themselves here.
Yeah, I want to draw it back to what
ओए
happened last round, and it
ये
really
सोलो
does
बंदा
seem
पिट
like
तो नहीं जाएगा.
Armor as well as Vega, they dropped fairly close
I
to
think
one another. So
ड्रॉप का
apparently
चक्कर बाबू
they're
भैया,
hoping to
ड्रॉप का
resolve
चक्कर.
what went by the past
Nice
round,
knock.
but it's gonna be Monk that does finds
Ah,
any esports
anti.
members. Monk can only do so much, but it's gonna be traded 1-0 with no backup whatsoever from the rest of the Monk members.
Oh,
Cherry,
जी coin कोड आ
so
चुका
far
है
actively
boys.
seeking
ले
out
लो
up
जिसको भी
against those
चाहिए.
rest of the members of
कोड है
Vega, breaking
ZH
through those doors, hoping to see any line of view. Oh, guys, pick this one up
That's
real
the
quick.
one.
4V6A.
That's the one.
I
That's the
repeat,
G-Con code, guys. That's what we've all been waiting for.
4V
Screenshot
Where's
it,
my
write it
phone?
down.
Where's my phone? I want some of these as
RQ6A.
well, but
Yeah, get it
I'll
down
leave it up to you
fast.
guys. I'll leave it up to you guys. Anyways, very quick E pickup coming in from the side of Zenshin as they got marked by Bad Ape. Oh, that's some significant damage
Nice.
right there as
अच्छा
they're
zone मिल गया
dropping
इनको.
into the factory plant of the southeastern corner of the map. But the coast is clear. Monk will still be holding on firm to this factory area at the very least. Are there more E
One
pickups
more
coming on the
EP
way?
is
I'm
on
not
the
quite
way.
sure, but probably
I think
later
I see
on.
one. I think there's still one more on the way here, but
Oh, there we go.
yeah, that's the one. That's gonna be Orgless here. So
इन पे
far,
कुछ
we
बचा नहीं,
haven't
शायद ये
seen
मिलता पावर
anyone
ही
with the
जाएंगे
glider
शायद.
so far. I mean, it has
इनको
always been
स्पॉट हो जाएंगे बंदे
a very
मॉन्क
common
वाले.
tactic, right? With both the E pickup and the glider, right? It works hand in hand where you could scout things out early, you're able to tell your team like, hey, you know, which is
इतना तो एक्सपेक्ट
relatively a
कर
safe
सकते हैं
spot
कि
here. But
अगर
you know, maybe we might
इनका
see
लेट है
gliders
क्योंकि
more
EP.
towards maybe later into the round or probably tomorrow or the final day. But other than that, it looks like Monk going to be able to get a lot of information. One team on the east, another team on the west here.
Nah,
Milta
he
Power here,
missed.
an area that has not been contested by any team so far here. So
अगर वो साइड
decent
चढ़
amount
जाता
of
ना
loot
ऊपर,
for Orgless to really
बहुत
set
अच्छा जो.
themselves up here because the
अरे
more,
इसकी तो
because
गाड़ी फंस
naturally the
गई.
more resources, you don't really have to worry about it later on here.
Guys, I
GSW
need
on the other
help.
hand,
मेरी
playing on
गाड़ी
the
फंस चुकी
beach
है.
area. That's a interesting
होता
place to
है.
be in.
हर किसी के साथ होता है.
Yeah, I really do think that this is a very good stronghold because plenty of teams will look to bypass Milta to cut into Milta power, and this is where they could just look for some of all these opportunities of picking players off. GSW so
Wow.
far have been absolutely impressive, and these are prodigies. This is the very first time that we actually see them
copyright है
join
तो.
the PMS circuit,
इनका कुछ है भी
and
नहीं.
they
ये
are
लोग क्वेरी
showing up
प्रिज्मा की
huge,
साइड उतरे
being
हैं
the
शायद.
champions of Cup Tree,
वेरी
and
लूट के.
so far a
मस्त.
top 4
रूट. ओ
performance
अल्टो.
in day
अल्टो
one,
स्पोर्ट्स भी है.
and they could still look to
I
eye
think
for
they're gonna
top 3 spots as well.
clash
All they really got to do
स्नेक
is
के
take out
आसपास.
the hot streak of Vega as well as Unlucky.
इनको आ
Easier
जाएगी
said
इन्फो
than done.
जैसी ये लोग ये
Yeah,
वाली
yeah,
So to
I
speak.
mean, of
रिच
course.
पार्ट करेंगे.
You make it sound so simple, right?
What you
Just
call
take
it?
them all out. Just
Or
kill
let
half
the
the
rest
lobby.
do the job, right? Like, if you could just, I don't know, have a death note in the game. It's like, okay, I want all 4 of these names from this team. That's all I ask for. It does not work that way.
Yeah.
And after 4 rounds of play, I'm just trying to identify all these new names that are really keeping things super exciting. And both Zen as well as Zenshin, they have very unique playstyles. That's the thing I really do like about teams hailing from the Philippines.
Nice
They are
time
very
exit.
explosive. Sometimes, like, you think that they're quiet for 1 second, the next thing you know, they just rock up against someone. They don't care about positioning. They just take fights, and they, of course,
वही है, कुछ फायदा
look
नहीं है
to be
ऐसी
super optimistic
फाइट्स में
on
रुक के.
winning the trades.
If you
Which is why I'm very excited for day number 2. I
अगर
think
तुम्हें
within
जोन मिल रहा है तो
within
कोई फायदा
like
नहीं. ओ ले.
all of the PUBG esports scene,
क्रैश
right?
हो गया
Like
एक का.
my favorite day is not the final day; it's always the day 2 here because day 2 is where you start seeing team
एक्चुअली में
really
PUBG
just
को फिक्स
going
करनी चाहिए
full
ये
gear
चीज.
about it. Day 3 is just usually just
आजकल काफी crashes होते हैं
either
गेम.
picking up breadcrumbs or just really solidifying themselves, depending on what kind of qualifier like the results gets you, right? Because usually the most common one is usually top 6 or top 4 or top 6 move forward, right? Now it's top 2 only here. So now the bar has been raised here for a lot of these teams here. So some of the
हैप्पी
rounds or
गार्जियन
some of the
बॉट
days it just
नॉक्ड होते हुए.
can't. There are just some things that just can't be unacceptable anymore.
ओ
Here,
इनके
and
पास
you
भी
just
अच्छा
really
है.
need to
इन्होंने
just
स्पेस छोड़
earn
दी.
that
ले
point
लो
for
वो
sure.
स्पेस शायद.
At least ensure
आए
yourself
नहीं,
where
वापस आ गए वो.
if you have one bad week but 3 good weeks, then you don't have to worry too much about
अच्छा
that,
स्पेस
right?
लिया है.
True
अब
enough.
तो जानना ही पड़ेगा.
I mean, we
Nice.
can only imagine what could actually go down. Seemingly, there's just
With
a
this
couple
new
of pickoffs.
format, yeah.
We got Orkless versus GSW. Oh, this is a fight I want to watch. Top 1 versus top 4, and GSW loses a member already in a pickoff.
Let's go team
Trigger
newbies.
drive-bys.
Go for the win.
Team newbies, though, hoping to also enter
उनके लिए अच्छा है,
the
लेट चढ़
edges
सकते हैं
of
ऊपर ये.
farm in
सेत्सुना
hopes
वाली
that they
टीम को
could
बस
scale
फोर्स ऑफ
through the
करना पड़ेगा
hills to
प्रिजन की
get
साइड
to the lumber mill
इस
and
शिफ्ट के बाद.
eventually make their safe entry into the Milta sectors. But looking at all these scenarios, right? There's just
It all
so
depends
much
on
to,
the
of
shift.
course,
Art shift हुआ
sift
तो.
through into the form of data. But this is interesting. Back in a couple of seasons
वो एक
ago,
ग्लाइडर उड़ रहा है.
usually you see repeated chicken dinner winners, but so
One
far it's
rotation
been
of
different
start to
winners
win.
everywhere.
Oh,
definitely for sure. But ooh, what a drive by CJ, trying to see he can get a little bit lucky here, trying to make
He
the pay a
whipped so
toll.
hard, man.
Trying to make it pay them a toll as they drive by here, but that's not going to be the case here. Alex trying to
Nice.
join in the fray.
ये
Naturally, he's
force
going to find a
drive by
little bit
था.
more success
ये
here on
नहीं मार
Jing.
सकता
A
इसे.
headshot to get the knock here. Reposition himself towards cover
No,
here.
nice
Trying to
one.
get a second one. Will secure the second
Nice
knock here.
knocks.
But unfortunately, where's the rest of the team? Can the rest of Orcless get into position in time to go for the save, or at least try to retaliate back from this here? ER is currently on foot, no vehicle in hand. Same goes for Mad Dog, but he's in close proximity here. He got a nade chime, he got the visual. Does he have the trigonometry? It flies, it looks good, a bit too far. As the team was able to react in time to move away from the position. A second nade comes in, not close enough. And now it comes down as currently GSW have their back against the river and the rocks here. Nowhere else to go here. They have to take this fight head on.
They got to bring Alec back on his feet. So far, he's been absolutely clean by securing those double takedowns. First, it was a lost cause for the side of CJ. They were all dispersed into different locations initially, and now looking to close up shop up against the two members. And oh, the drive-by! Jing! Absolute matlat. He takes out Mad Doc, and now it is all down to Ia. Ia looking to at least get a 2v2 down the stretch. And just like that, they shred him through the smoke. How ridiculous it was. And it's once more showing off what he's got.
Yeah, the IGL for JSW here really being calm and collected about this, not phased from the situation or the disparity of the situation that they have. But then again, also you gotta give it a Jing as well. Getting that knock from that drive-by was so crucial on putting Orgless, having Orgless to be on the short end of the stick here, because that just gave so much pressure for them. Down to one man, they're just forced to go for the react on Alex. They just didn't have much of a choice. Well done coming in from Jing. A much earned win for sure for GSW. And Orgless, this is gonna be their, this is gonna be I guess you could say GSW put the Orgless back to bed, tucked them nice and tight.
And that just opens up the floodgates, right? Because now you see opportunities for Unlucky or even GSW to hopefully overtake that 53-pointer being set at the top of the table. But we do have a fight coming our way, and that's Alter Ego versus Orca Terra. I think that it is definitely a little bit more challenging for Orca to push upwards up against Alter Ego. So unless if there's a flank that they could find somewhere in return, that might be pretty handy to slowly size them down. But Zanshin also receiving a little bit of attention coming from Monk. This has been a long trade-off between the two sides. Monk did lose one player very early on, if I'm not mistaken, up against some of these guys coming from Zanshin. Well, not exactly up against Zanshin because they're sitting at 0 for now, but it will just be a little bit more of a...
I believe it was
firm
Zen
hold.
Esports, yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing about this season. You got Zanshin, you got
Oh
Zen
man, I'm so
Esports.
sorry यार. मैं mute था. तब से commentary करे जा रहा हूँ.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
किसी की chat miss करी हो तो so sorry. मेरे पास dual monitor setup नहीं है.
No, I can't believe you said that. No, I can't believe you said that, man. Take that back. But other than that, I'm really happy with Zen Esports' new logo as well. Very cool logo. They had a very, not to say they had a terrible logo in the previous series, but it's still a cool new one.
Nice
But anyway, back to the situation. Alter Ego.
Nice cover up, my guy. Nice cover up. I see what you did there.
Decent exchange so far, 1-for-1. It's a battle between the rocks. It's just a matter of who's able to.
इस पे gas can है, कर सकता है थोड़ा.
When it comes, I believe you also can agree, right? When it comes to those CQC scenarios, so especially mid-range gun plays, headshot just comes in clutch to really secure those rounds. They're much needed.
Nice, so close, man.
Oh. And that being said, looks like Orca is going to be...
Nice try.
Oh, sorry, was it Orca? No. Yeah, so
Orca,
ATO... Yeah, Orca, alright.
That was quite a crazy full send coming from Alter Ego, though. I didn't really expect Queen to actually rush for it because there's technically just three players waiting for him to strike, and he kind of took the bait out of it. So now Alter Ego acts against the wall, but he does find one. Simoy, is he going to get another one in the back? RDK looking for a shred down. Kind of missed the mark by just
Oi. My stream is going great or what? मेरी स्ट्रीम सही चल रही है, इनका लैग हो गया.
For a shred down, kind of missed the mark by just.
मैप स्ट्रीम भी देख लेते हैं एक बार.
Simoy is always capable
Yeah,
of.
we are back
Back
now.
at home, Simoy have always been regarded as the best Indonesian player for many, many years, from teams to teams, from FTF days to Onyx, RRQ, the list goes on. And now, brand new home in the form of Alter Ego. Vega Esports, so far landing trio already, and that's gonna be kill number 4 if he does strike down the legs of that Zenshin member. Connecting a couple attacks, but Teddy is also getting a little bit of attention coming in from Akosire, closing in the distance with that vehicle. And the zone's already moving deeper within the sites, and Zeno instantly gets struck down by GSW's Jing.
Real good pick on it, but they're not really out on the fight just yet. Xeno, on the other hand, I don't think they're going to be able to go for the saves on that one later on. They really need to clear out one of the members of Alter Ego first. That's going to be the last member, and they are eliminated away. But then again, Alter Ego did great work here on setting up that foundation here for day number 1 here. 34 points in total and 4 kills to boot here. So a pretty great start for and a 5th place in the ranking. I mean, it might shift later on depending how this game goes. But for now, 5th place for day number 1, the leaderboard.
Oh, nice play, man.
Pretty great starting foundation for themselves as they make towards day 2 and day 3. But now anyway, quickly take a look at the next phase here. It's going to be the phase 5 circles. Teams are naturally, taking part shots. If they can get a knock, that's great. If they can translate, if they can convert it to a kill, that's even better. But the kind of thing is, you get a knock at someone who's currently in the compound, pretty hard to convert that to a kill because cover and team is most likely going to be able to go for the pickup. If it's on the flat fields, it's a different story. This might be an opportunity for Zen Esports or even Team Unlock, who's currently playing on the outskirts here. I mean, it's Iranga, right? It's a kind of where you're allowed to play at the edge of the circle, unlike Murama. I mean, you can with Murama, but it's just
third party में
just
get.
It's a lot more challenging, right?
Yeah, it's a lot more challenging. Yeah,
I absolutely do agree, and I like the fact that all these teams are going for broke all throughout the entire field of Iranga right at this moment, because this is their last chance to wrap up the night, to really solidify their stance. And lo and behold, take a look at 6th place all the way to 10th. Everyone's tied at 21 points. It is going to be a crazy shift.
X-Men got down by Monty, happy spot.
Because either one's going to end up
is 1 HP.
surging past even the likes of Alter Ego that have wrapped up the night with 34 points. Lun dangerously low, 14 HP. He pops
nice
that grenade. He
man.
does find it up against Monty. Ooh, clean. Absolutely
Monty got
clean.
down.
Yeah, sadly Gandalf is not going to be good enough to save against from Ordnance coming in from South.
Savior पे कुछ option नहीं है, उसे solo ही खेलना पड़ेगा, बहुत दूर है.
Spray going to be able to knock down Lun, who was relatively low in the first place anyway here. So comes up to Savior, the last remaining member. Going to be pulling down the grass. Vehicles coming by. Want to see if you can get a nice opportunity. Spots out one, attempts to go for the spray. Unfortunately, the shots are not connected is what he hoped for.
Tried.
And that's going to be it for Savage Man Esports for their run.
10 team alive.
Place in the ranking here. Now they're going to be taking a nice good rest. Hopefully to just reflect and prepare for day number 2. But anyway, the match goes on. And now Shadow Esports also hearing a lot of commotion here towards the Wizard Tower here. Also want to join in the fray to rack up that points. Nan and 10 Trip, by the way, the Happy Squad, Nan can't afford to leave the Wizard Tower because 10 Trip is the one in the Wizard Tower. So you can't leave at the current moment of time.
Oh, he absolutely took over from where Savage Men has left off. And Savage Men really didn't feel like they were present for the entirety of the day. You look at their position, is kind of scattered
Jansen got
all throughout.
also
So I kind
eliminated.
of wish that from day 2 onwards they can kind of work on some of
TN को अब
all
थोड़ा
these
आगे खेलना
errors that
चाहिए
they've
थोड़ा खुल
committed
के.
along the way.
इनके पास
So
प्रेशर है नहीं.
Zen
रीड नहीं है
Esports,
क्या इनकी?
however, they found 2 pickoffs in the form
लेफ्ट
of
टीम पे
Team
एक सोलो
Unlucky,
भेज
and
सकते हैं ये
there's
लोग
only one member left. Can he
किल्स
actually
उठाने के
hold
लिए.
out? As there's just plenty more of these members of SE charging towards the direction, and I believe there's not enough time for him to go in for a rescue.
कैंट्रिप
Zen
बच सकता है
Esports,
वैसे तो
next
जोन
one
के
to
अंदर
bow
ही है.
out. 23 point is all that they've got so far in the
Unlucky
tank.
also got
Meanwhile,
eliminated.
we do
7
see
team
a
alive.
little bit of a shift of the zone. Where will it end up? Perhaps very likely to end up somewhere towards the center, and it does finally favor NRG.
Oh.
And this is also really great for them as well. Like this is an opportunity. They got a nice spot for themselves, pretty comfortable for the next few phases. I don't think we'll see like a super heavy shift in phase number 7 here. So NRG is pretty much good.
Yeah, hardship
That
नहीं
position
आया
that they
इस
have for themselves is pretty good for the next 2
game
phases.
में.
At least this is going to be my assumption for this. But Shadow User on the other hand was a happy score on
Oh, Panzer.
Tentro on the other hand, finally leaving the Wizard Tower here. Want to see if they can get a couple of knocks.
Oh,
Here.
they got
find
knights.
their it's going to be none. Finds a spray on Kamal. That's going to be a kill point for themselves here. But looks
अच्छा
like Shadow
need है.
Esports,
एक
they're not
एक और
intending to
connect हो
move
जाए.
away from the current position. No, they want to secure the edge.
Nice
And looks
nade.
like they're going to be
10
running
trip.
alongside
Nice
with Team Newbie. A beautiful nade to get the two double knock at the same time.
Team
Whereas on the other
Newbies
side,
भी
looks like
third party
VG
के लिए घुस
putting
रही
the
है.
numbers on Team Monk and eliminating him for the competition. Tentry moves in aggressively. He sees a chance. He saw the names. He counted the numbers in his head. There's only one member remaining. He pushes in for the kill, so kills it. However, Team Newbies on the other hand is currently swooping in to finish up the job.
10 Treep, he absolutely overkeyed it on that one because he was just creating highlight reels one after another after that massive grenade, and now Translucent is gonna do it upon them as well.
Nice.
And just like that, has dealt with 10 Trip. Second knock, not out just yet for the rest of Happy Squad. But take a look at who's over on the side of the hill. It's gonna be Armor Esports, just holding them down within that line of sight. TN have not converted those into numbers just yet, but with 10 Trip bleeding out so quickly, this could very well be their very first point, and yes, it will be
Oh, armor
under the name of
का एक बंदा
Translucent
ऊपर
for
खेल
the
रहा है.
meantime. This is an
Suspect.
absolute great lock of a situation, and doesn't seem like any of them can actually set foot into the zone.
This is tough.
Happy Squad का
Esports,
GG है, I
they
guess.
someone weighed out their odds here. They say, hey,
If
taking this
miracles
fight
not come
in a circle
coming.
that's not really going to be determining like the outcome of it as well with the positioning that they have. They just decided to play a little bit more safer and head straight to the edge. Team Newbies on the other hand, hoping to see a little bit of aggression coming. What's going to be the call from Happy Squad here? But it looks like
वैसे
none going to be playing for
ठीक है.
placement or just going to succumb
They
himself to the zone so that no one
I
else
think
takes
इनको
the
ये
points.
हैप्पी स्क्वाड का बंदा क्लियर करके डबल डिप्स के थ्रू जाना चाहिए था क्योंकि यहाँ से आगे जाना थोड़ा हार्ड है इनके लिए क्योंकि गाड़ी इनके पास एक ही है.
The sanctuary of their positioning of this compound here will be able to rain all
यहाँ
over
पर
Team
सिर्फ
Newbies
एक बंदा
parade.
टाइम
They
बाय
were
कर
able to
सकता है.
secure a vehicle for themselves.
Nice, top
None
4.
succumbing themselves to the zone, not giving any team the points here. And now we're down to
Oh.
our final 4.
My. YOLO Lee,
Okay,
this
he
round
got
went
the
by
zone.
super swiftly. Like,
Yeah, it's phase 6,
yeah, I mean, if you went to maybe brew a cup of coffee and you
Oi,
come
oi,
back
oi,
and
oi,
you,
oi.
like,
Cherry.
what? My favorite team
Cherry
is
on the
gone?
top. Aye,
Like,
hard shift for Team
yeah,
Newbies.
that's how quick it goes by. And Armor Esports right now having the favor of the zone, and the only problem that they have to deal with right now is
Armorer
gonna be
इतना
Nirvana
split खेल
Rebirth
रही है
Soldier
कि
Gaming. Every season,
अगर वेगा
I have to
आर्मरर से भिड़ती है तो
slowly
इन
pronounce
लोगों
their
पे
name
अच्छा
since
चांस
it's
है ऊपर
a
जाने का.
mouthful.
आर्मर स्पोर्ट्स
It's
पे
like
प्रेशर
it
बनाना.
says NRG, and then somebody think like,
एनर्जी
oh, is
क्योंकि
it the
फुल
NRG
फ्री है
org
इन
from
पे कंपाउंड है क्योंकि.
NAEU? Nah,
Ooh,
not. No. This is NRSG actually. Well, I kind of wish they put the S into the name to make it a little different, but well, they can be the NRG of the East, I must say.
Ooh.
And right now,
He got
looking like their
spotted.
former selves.
कुछ ऑप्शन नहीं है इन पे अब.
High and
If
mighty, and
they
this
have
is their
C4 then
first top 4 finish
something could
for the
happen.
entirety of the night. So can this be the grand conversion that they're looking for? A chicken dinner to at least
C4
lift
पे भी
themselves
थोड़ा हार्ड ही
a
होगा
firm
शायद.
shot
ओह
for day 2.
चेरी ने
Yeah.
किल उठा लिया. kill steal.
Although it is going to be a little bit of going to be quite the challenge for this team currently at the moment of time, because they are being pit against Team Newbies, who's currently close proximity as well, since they came from the same exact direction. Vega is not too far apart, but then again, this is also the kind
एनर्जी
of
को
team
पता है
where they're
इनका
not
साउथ
gonna
साइड वो
watch the
है
fight ensued and
वीक,
not try to gain something
लेकिन
out
अगर
of this
वेगा
at the same
स्पोर्ट्स के
time.
दो
Armor
बंदे भी
East, on the
देख
other
रहे हैं
hand,
ना तो
it seems like they have a
अनफॉरगिवन जो
really
प्ले बना
great
रहा है वो
vantage
वेस्ट हो
point from the
जाएगा.
forestry area. Although it's a little bit of a it's a hill, right? It's a slope. It's a hill and a slope, right? But they do have the vantage point for it. Team Newbie or Translucent in this case here, just trying to bide as much time inside the blue zone as much as possible here. Does has one more first aid
Nice
kit. I think
A1
Team
one kill.
Newbies has
All
decided
he
to
need.
succumb themselves to the zone.
No man.
Looks like it gets knocked out by suspect, so that's gonna be
वही
that's gonna
बस
be
यही था
a
कि वो
big
किसी
pickup for the
दूसरे से
try here
स्पॉट
for
ना
the
हो
team
जाए.
here. Whereas NRSG in this case is gonna be able to find some of the members of Armor Esports here. And now it's going to be coming down to as both
Nice
the team
try.
is able to
Nice try, DN.
able to spot each other from an eagle eye view. Vega, on the other hand, I'm not sure whether Armor has spotted them out just yet.
Probably not quite just yet.
They've been pretty silent, right?
Yeah,
Okay, they
they've
got
been
the
very,
cars.
very elusive. A respectable top 4 finish for the side of Team Newbies. Despite only
अच्छी रिच मिल
drawing
जाएगी
one kill
शायद
point
इनको.
this round. Cherry's
ये
got
जिधर
a massive
ऑपर खेल
AWM.
रहा है.
He just needs a peek onto the shoulders of either members of NRG. And oh, goodness
nice
gracious,
shot, man.
he's just gonna slowly pin them
He
down. He's got the
connects.
suppressor on as well. And they just have no clue what they're dealing with. Oh, that is so dangerous.
एनर्जी पे और कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है.
Somehow,
इनको सेंड इन है
Vega
या
has
तो
been sitting
इन इस
right
टीम
underneath
दोनों
their
टीम्स की
noses
फाइट
for the entire time.
मैटर करती है इन
And
एनर्जी पे.
nobody's got the zone advantage for the moment, as they're all playing just by the edge of it. Cherry's only down to 10 more bullets on the AWM, so he's got to be really wise
they are
about
going
his
south.
pick-off decisions, and he just
अच्छा प्रेशर
quickly
बनाया है इन्होंने.
mark their locations
JFT
for the
ने.
meantime, and finally he does actually get a glimpse of it just through the corners. And Armor Esports, they're not going to be going with haste, at least with all this intel. They want to ensure that this chicken
They are
dinner
going for the
will be theirs
kills
by the end of the night, but
rather
still,
than
Vega,
Pubg. एनर्जी का
they've
turtle
been
got knocked.
unchecked for the entirety of
बस
this round.
आर्मरर.
Well, at least
Oh,
until
अच्छा
now,
needs.
at least here, because that's pretty much why you only see PB
रेड जोन
and
बना दिया
PB
भाई.
and one of the members of Armor East were just focusing on
Nice.
NRSG. The rest of the members is just focusing down south there. And now
Aimbot
with
got
Vega
knocked.
finally revealing themselves,
Trade
because
again,
NRSG intends to try to go for the flank here. Went to the bottom side to clear things out here. Now succumbing to the ordnance here, and thanks to natural gravity, because it's descending down the hill. So this ordnance is going to naturally roll down here. Now it comes down to Vega.
चिकन तो वैसे ही
versus
आर्मर
Armor
का ही है.
Esports. Yeah, Armor Esports
PV
still
got,
relevant here.
nice.
Pivoting for the position here will secure the fight, and now it comes up to the 2v4.
Oh, they are denying. They are denying.
This is going to be an uphill battle
fast,
for Vega,
go
and
fast,
they're
go fast, go
slowly
fast.
being pinned out of the zone. There's only one member left.
Ah,
Armor
no.
Esports have finally
Nice
nailed it
one.
down. And there we go. Flex it all you want, because you guys absolutely deserve this big, fat win. Armor worked so hard for it. They were so close back in Miramar, and now the faithful is rewarded.
Oh yeah, I mean, it really came down to really great call-outs, right? The suspect being the idea, really just ensuring that the team takes the best route as much as possible here. And and literally when the time came for them to be super aggressive, or at least to pivot for certain positioning, that's when he sends out Pivy. He sends out the hounds. He searched them all out. They hunted them, each of them down here. Sure, some could say that the situation did favor them in certain situation. That is true. That is definitely true. But other than that, it's just really just how the team really capitalized on that situation. Because we also see teams in the past where got a good spot, got a good opportunity, but still dropped the ball for this. So in this case, Armor Esports did not drop that ball. They secured it for this last match of the night, and that's gonna be setting them at least a great foundation as they make their way into day number 2 here.
It's the beards, man. I tell you, it just empowers you to do the unthinkable. And Pivy, he was leading the charge throughout the very final fight. And I started to do wonder, like, okay, we were thinking that, hey, Vega's been elusive. Then you come to think of it, they were fully in check by Armor Esports the entirety of the time, because they can't afford to beat them.
Yes.
So the only way out both of these teams just have to focus down on NRSG, and it was just going to be a walk in the park. And the call for Pivot to push was absolutely genius.
Yeah, it really the cards was all in their favor here. Let's be honest here, because Armor Esports, they came in from the north side, right? They got the full control of that north end here as well here. So they didn't really need to try to speculate whether Vega is going to be coming from that north, because they know for sure there's no one's going to be there. That's why they had like both PV and Suspect, just both of them just being on NRSG's case here. The south side was just Dusty and the last remaining member of Armor Esports just to keep them in check should anyone try to scale up that hill. But by the way, beautiful nade coming in from Tenchi, right? Like this round, at least this past few matches so far, I think this last match as well really showcased like his decision making in really tight spaces, right? Like he knew he knocked out one from the vehicle, so that's 3 players. He's really keeping track of how many players in the squad, right? 1 knocked, 2 with a nade. He really knew for a fact, you know what, that's just the one last guy, and I'm just gonna push for it.
Yeah, and I think that Vega also did take their sweet time where they didn't exactly spread out for maybe a little bit more of that space. The moment that they tried to engage onto NRSG, then the timing was kind of unfortunate because the zone was closing in on them. So they ran out of that space to really fend off against the rest of Armor Esports. And of course, Armor Esports played that to a T. Every member was in the right position and the right time as well in order to really secure the round. First one for the side of Oceania as well as Australia. So I'm super happy for the boys because, you know, they've worked all day long and they've remained very consistent throughout some of these matches. A couple of hits, a couple of misses in between the way, but have always remained to be pretty much in the mixture of having that balance of survival points on top of getting plenty of kills along the way as well. So we might even see them within the top 4 after this chicken dinner. Meanwhile, with Vega securing a top 2 spot with decent amount of kills that they've gotten this round, I think that it might be sufficient for them to claim that top spot, which was being held by Orcless, which Orcless, this was their first match that they actually bow out super early, and it absolutely cost them.
That is true. Oh, what was the amount of points? Actually,
53 to beat. Yeah.
53 to beat, right? So, because I'm also trying to recap on Team Unlucky, right? So, they bail out early. They couldn't get the placement point for sure. I don't think they have a lot of kill points for themselves here. So, I don't think they will be gatekeeping any of the 2, or at least gatekeeping Vega in this case, yes, yeah. But
I mean, Vega's got 8, man. I'm pretty certain that they're number 1 right now. But take a look at this. They did only 800 over damage, means that all these kills were actually stolen in the midst of some of all these fights. Meanwhile, Armor, they worked super duper hard for 2,000 over points of damage. They only secured 5, but most importantly, the chicken dinner was theirs for the taking.
Yeah, no, Armor Esports was in a very similar situation with NRSG, right? They got a nice spot for themselves, not a compound. They got this nice high ground in the forestry area, right? But that just allowed them to. But the only difference was the fact that they just had a really great vantage point to really poke at a lot of players, harassed a lot of them. They could have converted the kills, unfortunately. Hence why there's only 5 kills. But the amount of damage really just speaks volumes to the fact that they were just really knocking down, they're really just doing a lot of damage to any team that was really caught in their lines of sight here. And don't forget, they had an AWM on top of that. They had like all the mini 14s, which has been pretty on point for at least this remaining 2 matches here from what we've been seeing so far. So Armor Esports, especially for the map of Marama, able to get that top 3 placement, and now here securing that chicken dinner here. That's a lot of points coming in from Armor Esports here. I'm really excited to see where they're actually last in this ranking here. Getting to that top 6 or maybe top 5, I'm not surprised about that at all. But here come the team stats here, and that's Cherry. That's your sniper player, the player that we saw the POV just now with the AWM here. That's the one that's dropping in the big numbers here. And everyone, it's not just him. Everyone was just really contributing this for that mid to long range battle here. It was only that close range where we see PV just really closing in with the rifle to seal the deal here. So really well done coming from Armor Esports.
And the recipe to the success is, you know, good beard and big biceps. I mean, they flexed it out. Of course, if you guys got big guns, you gotta show it. And tomorrow they're gonna do it all over again Armor Esports, they should be climbing their way to the top. So I definitely am super excited to what tomorrow will unfold. But it's been quite the long day for some of these guys, even longer day for names like Savage Man and RSG, which worked really hard, didn't really back as much as they really would like to acquire. And of course, with that said, let's take a look at the man of the match, Suspect. He's been able to convert majority of all these damage into some kills, as well as 3 knocks, and of course, surviving it towards the tail end to wrap things up with a big win. So kudos to him, as well as the rest of Armor Esports, and of course, massive respect to all the other squads that did participate throughout the entire span of the day. But Armor, I like
यार
the
ये टोटल
trajectory of
लीडर बोर्ड
how they
लास्ट में
work things
कितना
out
लेट
from
करते हैं
every respective map. They definitely do know the form of check and balance. And if you take a look at their gameplay, they're always having a very good formation to really play towards one another.
Especially it became more evident, especially when we got towards the end of the night here for day number 1 here. The first 2, as usual, a lot of teams is just trying to check out that roster, trying to get the groove, get their groove into the motions, right? But other than that, we start seeing teams who was really just blasting out that gauge. I think Vega in particular was also able to find their groove in the process alongside with Armor. I think a lot of teams really started
5 points. Nice.
getting a really good feel about it and just had really better performance as we got them towards the end of the night here. Sure, some teams still had probably was more prominent in the first 2 matches. I think that's probably going to be Team Unlucky here, right? But currently, for match leaderboard, they were only able to secure 5 points on themselves. Still able to get that 1 placement, surprisingly. I actually didn't think that they were able to enter any placement points at all here. So that's going to be 1 point additional with the 4 kills that they had here. So that's 5 points. It's not a lot, but at least it's helped to contribute with the foundation that they had initially set for the earlier few rounds. And today's record, of course, none other than Alec. I don't think anyone's going to be beating his record anytime soon here. At least to us, as the matches was going by, I was thinking like, there's no way anyone's going to beat his record for total kills or the amount of damage he's doing. He's like getting like 6 kills almost per round here by himself alone. It's ridiculous to me.
Well, at least the boys from Armor are chasing in on that score sheet, though. But in the form of kills, it is relatively close between 1M Bot, Alec, as well as Ronax. Only 1 to 2 kills to separate them apart. So we definitely do expect by tomorrow these numbers will absolutely shift. You take a look at survival time. I think like the rule of law for the rest of Team Unlucky is that survival is of utmost importance, which is why they've been able to hold firm into a top 3 spot.
Pega
And take a look
Esports
at
scored
this.
the first
Malaysia
now.
sits right at the top with Vega Esports,
Unlucky
turning out
third.
56 points within the
Game
span of the
start
day,
win.
followed up by
Fourth.
Orclus with 53, 52 for the side of Unlucky. GSW comes in
TN बार में रैंक पे है 17
on
पॉइंट्स
their
के साथ
debut run. How awesome is that? I want to see more coming
Not
from
enough,
GSW.
but ये
And
कर
of course,
लेंगे
I'm excited for the boys from Armor Esports because,
I
this
hope
is
for
the
the
first
best
of many
for
chicken
them.
dinners to come for some of them. But tomorrow, I believe the rest of the field will look even hungrier for those wins.
Definitely, for sure. That's when
अभी
you really want to
आज तो
try
पहला ही
with the
दिन था तो
foundation that you
इतना
got. You really want to solidify it because
कुछ
you
है
really
नहीं
most of the teams really want to get to that day 3 in a more comfortable manner. Where all right, we just need to secure ourselves. We don't want to be on this sprint where okay, every round we need to get a chicken dinner and every round need to get like at least we need to kill like half the lobby, right? But of course, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, for day number 2, this is going to be our matches for tomorrow. Naturally, starting things off, we're starting off with Erangel, Tego, Rondo, Marama, and then ending it with Erangel. Pretty much the same map
Okay,
order,
guys.
I believe, as we had for day number 1 here. So not much
कल के
change,
मैचेस में
but this
मिलते
is
हैं
going to be the rotation that we have for tomorrow here. I'm also, you mentioned about the ranking as well, contrary regarding for coming in for Vega. Armor Esports also jumped, I believe, from 9 to 7.